Hello. Blah. Hello. Welcome back to Troubleshooting for Witches, a mini-series designed to help you troubleshoot your practice and the issues that you're coming up against. Today, we are talking about the same topic we talked about in episode 1, which is why are my spells still not working? If you're new to me, I'm Hana. I'm a professional tarot reader and astrologer and the host of the Witch Talks podcast, which I highly recommend you listen to if you like this content here. As always, if you have a specific problem that you're dealing with, like you've come here because you're trying to troubleshoot your spells, obviously, but if you have a specific problem and you're like, oh, she didn't really answer it, or mine's like, she needs the details to be able to answer this, you can submit it as a question to the Witch Talks podcast and I can answer it on air because it may help more people than just you. Or if you want to keep it private, you can always book with me privately. So, why are my spells still not working? Now, if you are here, I presume you have already watched that first one and you have tried those things to troubleshoot and it didn't work. If you haven't, that's okay. You can try these things and then go back and watch that one and then try those things. That's fine. You don't have to watch these in order, but I hope you are actually going and doing the things. Now, last time we chatted about telling somebody. Okay, so that's a big no-no. Don't tell anyone, at least in the first 24 hours of doing your spell. Don't talk about it. Just keep it to yourself. But the other aspect of this is lingering on it. If you are lingering on it, if you keep thinking about it, if you keep checking back every day, or you're like, has my spell happened yet? Oh my gosh, is it coming? When is it coming? You're pushing it away and you're going to stop it. You're going to block it. Okay? Don't linger on it. The whole thing, when we raise our energy, something I probably should put in here as well. Are you raising energy? If you're not raising energy, your spells aren't going to work. We raise our energy into the purpose and then we release it. The releasing is big, but if we keep on holding on to it and thinking about it and wondering about it and trying to do stuff or trying to do more stuff around it, we're just like holding it close. We're like, I don't really actually, no, I'm just going to keep it here. Let it go. Do your best to forget you even did the spell. This is actually why I think a lot of witches are people with ADHD. I don't know if that's an actual statistic. I just know pretty much all of my witch friends have ADHD. Maybe because we're so good at forgetting about stuff. So when things do happen, we're like, oh yeah, I did that spell. Oh wow, it worked. Oh my God, that's amazing. Because we're really good at forgetting. You got to forget it. You got to let it go for it to work. So don't linger on that other fact. Raising energy. You got to do it. You got to do it. I did talk about raising energy in one of the Witch Talks podcast episodes. Which one was that on? Might have been with Amy Harvey when we were talking about spellcrafting. So check out that episode. Now the next one, did you create the spell yourself or are you using someone else's? This goes back into episode 1 when we talked about where did you get your spell? Did you find it on Pinterest? Did you find it in a book? Even if it's in a book from a reputable person in the community, that doesn't mean that spell's going to work for you, right? You got to do your divination before, remember? Doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Sometimes making it yourself is going to be better as long as you kind of know what you're doing. Other times, some will work from some people and not from others. Does that make sense? For example, one of the best, most potent spells I've ever done was actually not one of my own. It was the most visceral, instant results. And I think there was a few things that came into play here. It was a spell from Baba Yaga's Book of Witchcraft. It's a Slavic witchcraft book by Madame Pamita. Highly recommend. I did chat with Madame Pamita on the podcast, which you can also find here on YouTube. Now, I was having troubles with neighbors and it was a very liminal time. It was just before sunrise, very powerful time for spellcrafting. And I used one of the How to Get Rid of Bad Neighbors spells that I had randomly seen in that book like the week before I needed it. And I did it. Now I had a lot of anger and emotion to fuel this working, which isn't always good. Anger can be dicey. But in this case, I'm not kidding. They got evicted the next day. It was very potent. And it was a spell jar type of spell. And it is on their property. I have not removed it, even though there's no one living there. We've had no one living there for almost a year now, which is wonderful. I could not have expected a better result from that spell. But until then, I am very happy because that house is so close to our border and so noisy, and it's just, they can see right into the house. I'm so happy having no one there. Besides, the previous guests had there's a lot that needs doing to make that place even safe to be habitable. But I digress. That was very, very powerful. That was using somebody else's spell, albeit it's a very old spell. I had a lot of energy behind that, a lot of emotion behind that, and it was done at a really liminal time. I also followed through with action. So sometimes we need to do the spell and that's all we can do. Sometimes we do the spell and we need to do something physically as well. So I fueled my actions of the next day of emailing someone to tell them about it and sending a video of what I'd captured. And then the action came through really swiftly. Would it have happened without that spell? Possibly. But my husband managed to remember I think we saw a real estate agent there. I think it was from this one, only after I'd done the spell. So in my view, my spell helped him to remember that information I needed to take the action that I needed to get the result that I wanted. Now, I've also had a lot of amazing results with spell work that I've done personally, that I've created, right? Just I've made using the correspondences and the knowledge that I have around it. Candle magic is one of my favorite forms for this. You can get really, really creative. I do have a candle magic class in my shop. But again, if you're making your own spells and you don't know what makes a good spell or what makes up the elements of a spell, probably nothing's going to happen. Just saying. Now, the next part, did you use substitutions? We can't always get all of the ingredients we need for a spell. That's fine. We live all over the world. Like most witchy books are from the States and they're really state-based ingredients. I don't have access to a lot of those things. So I have to make substitutions. There are some books. There's the Sherilyn Darcy has a book, the Book of Herbal Spells, I think it is. Really beautiful book, great spells in there as well. And she lists out things you can and can't substitute, because that's the thing. Sometimes you can substitute stuff, sometimes you can't. And no, rosemary is not a substitute for everything. That is really disrespectful to the spirit of rosemary. So you kind of got to know as well things that are critical for the spell and things that aren't. You're only going to know this by trial and error and tracking your results, reading up on different types of spell work, etc. And the very last thing I'm going to touch on here before we jump off is, was it too big? Sometimes the thing we are trying to do or achieve is just outside the scope of one person, right? And, just like trying to increase your odds at winning the lottery, even if you increased your odds by like times 50, there's still very low odds of winning the lottery, right? And that would take so much energy to do, and it's not worth your time or energy to do that. Same with trying to overthrow the patriarchy. You're not going to do that with one little spell. So rein it in a little bit. If you want to do big workings like that, you can, but you're going to need the assistance and the energy and the power of other witches, okay? So that's where you need either a coven or a collective or something like that, where you can all work together for a common goal. I hope this has helped you. I hope this has given you some things to try and to learn about and to help troubleshoot your spells in the future. If you have any questions for this mini-series, please let me know. Pop them in the comments below. And again, if it's a specific question, I can answer it on the podcast. I hope you have a lovely day wherever you are in the world today, and I will chat with you next time.